Hello and welcome to the Blue Shadow Podcast. My name is Joey,
I am Dan.
and today we are excited to do something that's kind of out of our wheelhouse. We typically talk about TV in the context of Star Wars or Marvel, a type of show like that. But today we're going to be taking a look at a recently released article from Variety. This is released on February 13th, 2025, and it's called The 100 Greatest TV Performances of the 21st Century. I was very excited to see this, and when I read through it on first glance, without reading the nice introduction that they wrote, I was a little mad because some people weren't there. But upon reading the intro, and I do want to say this article is written by 9 different authors. We highly recommend you go give it a look and see what you think. But basically, some of the rules they were saying is they're trying to take it seriously. It's scripted TV, hard cutoff at 2000, which addresses some of Dan's concerns, and one character per series to maximize the number of series that they have on the list. Dan, what did you think just of this concept, not of any particular picks or anything just yet?
I thought the concept was really good. There's in the age of TV, there's so many new shows that come out every day. Um, excuse me, and I like to think as myself as someone who tries to watch a lot of these TV shows. So when I was looking at them, I'm like, there are a lot of shows I've never heard of, and a couple shows I felt were noticeably missing.
Mm-hmm. Like I had a nice mix of wow, that one? Oh my gosh, I can't believe that character made it so high to why is that character not there? To
Yeah.
oh my God, why is that character there?
Hmm.
And I do want to say, like, through this, our goal is to first and foremost share who we were happy to see and maybe who we were surprised to see, then share who we think should have been on the list. Dan and I both obviously haven't seen every single one of these shows, so we're not going to say this person should not have been there. Our goal here is to say like who we feel from our TV experience got snubbed. So before we talk about the snubs, let's talk about some people we were happy to see. I can kick us off at number 98, someone who I know I'm sure we're both excited to see. That would be Roy Kent, played by Brett Goldstein.
Yes. Really enjoyed his performance as Roy Kent.
And the progression of like how he softened to be more, a part of the group.
Hmm.
I thought he was an excellent character, really, really funny. I'm gonna
And it was
reserve. Go ahead.
and Brent Goldstein wasn't originally supposed to play him. He
Because
was
he was a
actually
writer,
he
right?
was a writer, and as he was writing it, he kind of just said, "Hey guys, I think I can do this," and they let him.
Boy, was he right. Um, we'll talk more about him in a little for a reason that I'm sure you can imagine.
Hmm.
But the next number I have written down is 89. Do you have anyone else in between then and now?
Hmm.
All right, 89, we have Rochelle Rock from Everybody Hates Chris, played by
Oh,
Tachina Arnold.
great
I
show.
haven't watched that show in a very long time, but I would have said either her or Terry Crews would have been excellent choices here. And I don't know how they settled on one of the two of them, but I'm happy that one of them are here.
Yes, me too. She struck the fear of God into you,
Uh-huh.
but in like a wholesome way.
Yes, it was
Like
very
she
like
was very mean, but very fair mean.
uh-huh. And you could tell she loved her kids.
Yeah.
And I think I was surprised. That honestly was kind of one where I was a little surprised but very happy to see.
Mhm.
I think we both probably have number 85 written down.
Well, before we get to 85, I actually have one at 88,
Oh, go ahead.
and that's Julia Gardner from Ozark.
I haven't watched Ozark.
It's pretty good. It's pretty dark.
Breaking Badish, it seems from my impression of it.
Kind of. But for those unfamiliar, it's about a man whose job is to launder money for one of the Mexican cartels and all of the stuff that follows. So they move to the Ozarks, they leave Chicago, and they meet some of the locals, and one of them is Julia Gardner, who plays Ruth Langmore. She was phenomenal in this show. Really, really good. And I really think it vaulted her into the bigger projects that she's doing today.
What is she
because
doing today?
she's Silver Surfer.
Oh, wow, that's exciting.
Yeah.
So I'll be more excited about this in like a few months.
Yeah.
I have heard great things about this show. I'm glad that it's here again because I've seen it in the context of like, if you like Breaking Bad, you'll like this. So it's nice to see it kind of stand alone here, and have its own merit.
Yeah. It was really, really good.
Cool. 85 now?
Go right ahead.
That would be the only Star Wars actor on this list, which I have a little bit of an issue with, but I think it's a very well deserved one. That would be Luthen Rael, played by Stellan Skarsgård in Andor.
Yeah.
It's a great character, very nuanced, very different than any character you've seen in Star Wars before. See, we have to get our Star Wars fix in a little bit,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
Are you happy with Luthen here?
I think he's a little low, and that might just be the Star Wars bias coming in. But also, there's shows that I saw on this, and like I had no idea that the show even existed.
That and low for Star Wars. And if we're only going to do one Star Wars character, this is not the character that I would choose from like an acting perspective, but we'll talk about that later.
Okay, okay.
I'll give you a spoiler. It's from the same series if it makes you happy.
Ooh.
If you're unfamiliar, Dan loves Andor. It's not my favorite Star Wars. So yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. Next one
I
I
actually,
have, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I actually just watched Stellan and Mamma Mia the other night.
I haven't seen Mamma Mia in ages. He's in Mamma Mia.
Yeah,
Wow.
plays
I
one
mean,
of his.
I've been like a child when I watched that.
I'd never seen it.
You like it?
I knew a lot of the music going into it.
That had to help a little.
Yeah.
What's the next number you want to discuss?
Ooh, we can keep going because there's a lot of my shows. I think my next one is like in the 60s.
All right, so I got a surprise at number 70, Phil Dunphy.
Oh
I,
yeah.
and I don't know what surprised me about it, that he was the character they picked from Modern Family, that he was number 70. I don't know if I think it's too high or too low. I don't know. Just something about that stood out to me. It's like, huh, Luthen Rail is 15 above Phil Dunphy.
Below.
Below, numerically above,
That's
but you get the
fair.
point.
That's fair. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
You
That
get the
is an
point.
that
Like,
is an absolutely fair ranking to have him below Phil Dunphy.
interesting. So you're a Phil Dunphy fan.
I'm I haven't seen Modern Family, but the just the longevity of the show and the acclaim for Phil Dunphy across
A-
every season
And
is well deserved.
I love the show.
I'm actually surprised he's not higher.
Interesting. I do like him. I think he definitely is deserving, but I don't know why when I was reading it, I was like, oh. Next I have 68. You good?
I have 67, so yeah, go right ahead.
All right, 68. We have Jim Hopper from Stranger Things, played by David Harbour. He is my favorite part of the show, full stop.
He became mine. Definitely didn't start that way.
And I think that's part of what like makes me like him so much is like he was kind of like this deadbeat cop and he grew into like an adoptive father for 11 and I spoiler alert I guess. But I just love that character and his growth. I thought the whole season where he was trapped in a Russian prison was kind of sad
Yeah, it's kind of
because he
crazy
was like away from it.
kind of the reveal that he was alive.
Yeah, no. That
It
because it was
was
like a sacrifice thing.
yeah.
I'm excited to see what they do with him and the rest of the cast for Stranger Things, but I think I was very happy to see him here.
I'm very not concerned about Stranger Things, but they're supposed to be in high school, and they all look like in their early 20s.
And yet we watch something where aliens are in it and discuss it on a podcast almost weekly. So you're
But
worried
at
about
least
Millie Bobby Brown's age.
I'm not worried about Millie Bobby Brown. Millie Bobby Brown can pass for a high schooler. It's the guys that can.
Soak it in and enjoy it. It'll be good. Season 4 was the strongest season yet.
Yeah, season 5 better be the best season yet. I mean,
They said
it's,
it's like several movies, which I would believe
mm,
because season 4 was insane. Who's your 67?
That's Caitlin Olsen from It's Always Sunny as Dee Reynolds.
I have never seen it.
It's like a stupid humor show, and I love it. It's just so off the wall sometimes. I mean, I just watched a clip the other day about how they go to a presentation for a pyramid scheme, and it was if you sit through the presentation, you'll get a free set of golf clubs. But it
Hmm.
was actually a timeshare presentation, and they get tricked into into signing up for 3 weeks of a timeshare.
Oh my God. Is this the character you would pick from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia? We could talk about that later, but
It's
just real quick
tough.
here.
They're all so unique. I don't have a problem with it being D.
Okay, so this isn't one that you're gonna want to like go talk about later.
No,
Okay, cool. I'm glad that you're like okay with it. I have 64. How about you?
I have 63.
All right, 64. We've got Wanda Maximoff, Scarlet Witch, played by Elizabeth Olsen, and WandaVision. The Marvel representative here, I think. If you're gonna pick one from a Marvel show, and it seems like what they did, like they didn't really go too far. Like I could have argued, and I'll say it now and not say it later. Daredevil, like Kingpin or Daredevil, would be a
Hmm.
great TV performance. But I think Wanda did such a good job. It was such a great continuation from the movie, which was a really unique kind of dynamic to have, and that the performance was so good. You felt like all her different like fake happiness and pain. I thought she was a great. Great performance and a great show that then, carried her on to play a villain in the next movie
Hmm.
she was in.
Spoiler. I'm just kidding. Movie's
I
been out
guess
for.
we'll just say blanket spoiler for this whole thing. I guess if you've gotten this far in, you probably get that.
Yeah.
You happy with Wanda?
Yeah. I think she's of I would say that's the strongest character from probably the strongest show.
Let me think. Yeah, 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 definitely. Uh-huh.
I haven't seen Agatha yet, but
Me either. But I think it all started with even though it was
yes.
Agatha all along, it all started with Wanda. How about your 63?
63 is Janelle James as Ava Coleman from Abbott Elementary.
I knew you were gonna do it, and I'm glad you
She
did.
she is so funny. The entire show, she plays the same person to a T. Does not miss.
This, as
Anytime
we
she,
talked about, is on my list. So I was excited to see a newer show. Get this. This is pretty darn far up.
I mean, yeah, and the show's kind of old now. It's 2021.
That's true. But I guess when you
She,
think about like Modern Family,
yeah,
very relatively new. But yeah, no, it
she,
is.
she is so funny. Every time she comes on the screen, does not disappoint.
This one is firmly at the top of my list now that I tackled Ted Lasso after how long? How many years of you yelling at me about it? Three?
Yeah.
All
The
right.
only thing about Abbott is that it's still going on.
I like that. That doesn't bother me.
Okay.
I know that bothers some people, but that doesn't bug me. Um, I again ask as someone who's not familiar with the show, are you happy with this choice as the representative for Abbott Elementary?
Yes, I think she is the funniest of the group.
Makes sense. All right. Next number I have is 61.
Yeah, I was curious to see if you were gonna
So
go there.
very recently, probably 2022, watched Lost with my wife, and that is where this next pick comes from. That's Ben Linus, played by Michael Emerson. I think I could argue a few different characters from Lost, maybe more likable, maybe more impactful, but I think Ben Linus is such a great character for the growth and the journey that he went on throughout the show, and he plays this like sinister but also kind of like holding it all together sort of character is very
Hmm.
very well done. And I don't know if like in the first season or two I would have said that this is my choice, but I'm happy with this.
Good.
I if you haven't watched Lost, I know that it's kind of a hot commodity to hate how it ended, but having, watched it as a streaming show essentially, I thought it was fantastic. And the ending is not nearly as bad as everyone makes it out to be.
Yeah.
Definitely worth a watch if you're interested.
I'll have to add it to my list. I'm currently watching The Pit.
Nah, I feel like I've heard of it, but I'm not familiar.
It's the medical show on Max.
Is it like a comedy or like a serious one?
Serious. It's a mix of like 24 and
Whoa,
ER.
that sounds stressful.
It is. Every episode's an hour of the shift in the ER.
Oh God, I feel like that would make me nervous, but it sounds good. I like 24, so.
Set in Pittsburgh.
Oh, what is that?
Set Allegheny General.
Who's in it? The actor
I don't
Morris
know.
Chestnut. Is that who it is? Or is that I don't
Maybe.
know. Anyway, we
Really
can move
good.
on. The next one I want to talk about is 53. Do you got anyone
Go.
between 61 and 53?
Nope, mine's 47.
This is an utter surprise one that I have. This is Titus Andromedon, played by Titus Burgess from Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. A really good show. I really enjoyed it. But the fact that this character is this high, let alone even there in the first place, baffled me. He's
Hmm.
good. He's really funny. But I just don't know that like the substance is there for me to agree that he should be put above, let alone 98 Roy Kent or, anyone that we've discussed previously, in my personal opinion. Have you watched Kimmy Schmidt?
I have not. I know the premise.
It's really interesting, really funny. The actress that plays Erin from The Office, I forget her name. Erin Kellyman, I think. No, I don't know. Erin, hang on. I'll Google it.
Anyway, while you're Googling that, I haven't watched it, but I do have exposure to Titus Burgess. Burgess?
Oh, wait, it's Ellie Kemper.
That's
She's
it. Ellie
very
Kemper.
good, very very good, worth watching, very entertaining. But what's your experience with him?
He narrated The Wizard of Oz when I listened to it.
Really?
Yeah,
That was probably really entertaining.
it was.
He's good. Like I said, he's good, but it's just the character itself was a big surprise to me. Again, not that he shouldn't have even been on the list, but just I don't know. It's just it threw me off a little. Next thing I have after that is 24. So I imagine you
Oh,
have something
yeah,
between.
I have some in between.
Have take the floor.
So the first one is William Jackson Harper as Chidi Anagonye at 47 from The Good Place.
Not one that I've watched, but one I feel like I should because of my
It's
attachment to Michael Schur.
it's a really good show, really short, only four seasons. Um, really contained. They don't leave anything to the imagination. Pretty hard-hitting cast. He's not the one I would have picked from it. I think I would have picked Ted Danson.
That would make sense just given like the lineup of people that are in it. Again, I'm not super familiar with that, but as like a fan of Office, Parks and Rec, stuff that Michael Schur worked on before, do you think I would be a fan of this?
Yes.
Okay,
It's not cutaway interview style
that's
where
okay.
Abbott is.
Uh-huh.
This is not, but
Would you?
do you know the premise of it?
Not really. You can enlighten me as spoiler free as possible after I just give a
Um,
spoiler warning.
all of these people are recently deceased,
Hmm.
and the good place is referring to the good place versus the bad place.
That sounds kind of fun.
It is.
Would you say this is that between this and Abbott Elementary is like comedies to watch? Which would you choose?
Abbott.
Okay, cool.
But again, I'm a little biased.
Because it takes place in Philadelphia.
And there's local references. I mean, same with It's Always Sunny. There's episodes where they go down to the Jersey Shore, and I'm seeing stuff from the boardwalk.
That's kind of
I'm like
cool.
that I went to growing up. I mean, it's Ocean City, New Jersey, some of it.
That's where my family
I
went to
know.
vacation too. So yeah, I got to give that one a go. Anything else to add about that one?
No,
Who else you got?
just making sure I didn't miss any. What's your next one?
24.
Okay. Number 40, Danny McBride is Kenny Powers in Eastbound and Down.
I had a feeling you were going to say that.
Such a silly show.
I'm only aware of it and maybe seen a clip here and there, but I'm not surprised that you picked that one.
It's so stupid.
I'm glad you like it though. Do you think he deserves to be here as someone who like I have no
He's
real
pretty
attachment?
good.
That's not Danny McBride
He
is
he
good.
plays a character that you're just like it's hard not to laugh at.
That's always fun.
Yeah.
Anything else
I
to
don't know
add
if I'd
there?
recommend it to, yeah. I don't know if I'd recommend it to you, but
It doesn't seem like it's fully up my alley.
No, it's a funny show. Okay. Do. Sorry, there's, 100 people. I have to make sure I'm not missing anybody.
I went through and made a thorough list for myself because I knew I would miss someone.
I haven't seen the show, but number 29, Claire Danes in Homeland, I hear is very, very good.
I'm not familiar, but that kind of seems like a Dan show. I am actually familiar with
That
Homeland, but not
that is
the
that is a
character.
dance show. Okay. My next true one is number 27, Kyle Chandler as Eric Taylor in Friday Night Lights.
I haven't watched the show, but I've heard it's absolutely fantastic.
It is.
Is this the character? It makes sense
Yeah,
that the coach should be
absolutely.
the character.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about the coach before we move on.
Uh, you ever heard like the clear eyes, full hearts can't lose?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Maybe another coach should have been on this list. We'll talk about that later.
Yes, and there's some other notable snubs that we're gonna need to talk about. So I think is it 23 or 21?
24 for me.
Oh, perfect. Go right
That would
ahead.
be Moira Rose, played by Catherine O'Hara in Schitt's Creek. I think this had to be the character from the show,
Yeah.
first of all.
I, I don't know anything about the show, but I know she's phenomenal in it.
You've not watched Schitt's Creek?
Now,
Really?
you seem surprised.
It's so popular. You normally are like on the ball with the kind of stuff.
No.
This gets to the full stop Joey stamp of approval. I really, really love this show. The only thing that would hold me back from picking her as the character is most of the other characters go through a very substantial like personal growth,
Hmm.
and she remains relatively stagnant, but not in like the way where Captain America remains stagnant and like his growth is like challenging his ideals and position. She just kind of is herself the whole time, for better or worse.
That's kind
But
of how Ava is.
I see. This is so entertaining though. She's like, do you know the concept of this show?
Yeah, the rich family, they lose their money.
And end up in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. And
It's so fun. And she is the whole time the most out of touch, which you can imagine
I mean,
makes for the most entertaining.
just from the picture alone.
You should see what she wears to a important wedding that happens in the show. She basically cosplays as the Pope.
That's good.
Anyway, I'm done till 16. What else you got?
That brings me up to 22. This might be a controversial pick, but Alec Baldwin in 30 Rock.
You've been a big fan of 30 Rock for
He's
as long as
it
I've
is
known you.
absolutely a hilarious show. It is a sanctioned spoof on SNL, written by Tina Fey.
I enjoy, and again, the controversy aside with Alec Baldwin, he is thoroughly entertaining.
He's so funny. It's so the brief premise is that GE buys NBC. So he's a corporate person from General Electric who got assigned to the television division of NBC, working with Liz Lemon, who is the Lorne Michaels of that world.
That's so funny.
Yeah. And they just have these heavy hitters who come in and do little cameos and
You've told me
leave.
Carrie Fisher's in it, which is enough to make me want to watch
Oh
it.
my God. Name somebody, they're probably in it. Matt Damon, John Hamm
How
play side
long
characters.
how long did that season run or that show run?
Pretty long. It was like seven or
Wow.
eight seasons.
Gotta love it.
You do. It's pretty funny.
Who else you got? Like I said, I'm good till 16.
That brings me to 19, and I think this one is criminally low. That is Peter Dinklage as Tyrion Lannister in Game of Thrones.
You mean that as in it's too close to number one or it's not close enough to number one?
Not close enough to number one.
I love Peter Dinklage and anything I've seen him in. I am not a Game of Thrones person, but enlighten
That
me as to
tracks.
why he belongs on here.
His character, he's a well-written character, and he adds so much nuance to it that he's just phenomenal. I mean, if you could watch montages of just him, you would like it.
Uh-huh.
He's this level-headed, discarded son in this world of chaos.
That sounds awesome. I've loved him, like I said, in Elf. I mean, that was probably my first exposure to him as like a comedy role. But then he also plays a character in X-Men. He created the Sentinels, and just like such a unique approach to that because
Hmm.
I just really, really like the actor. So I'm not surprised that that character is so good.
He was also in Death at a Funeral
Not
with Chris
familiar.
Rock and Martin Lawrence.
Oh gosh, I imagine that's entertaining.
Oh yeah, no, it's that's a remake movie. There's a British version that came out first, but
We'll be
he
talking about British remakes, American remakes of British things in a little bit.
oh, I wonder of what.
Go ahead, finish what you're saying.
No, he's very good. Is that a movie you're gonna watch?
But I mean, if you think it's worthwhile,
It's funny.
let's not talk about it too much then, because
Cool.
you just have to remind me to watch it.
Yeah.
Um,
That brings you to 16?
16. This
Yeah.
would be Lucille Bluth, played by Jessica Walter, on Arrested Development. I went back and forth on this one. First of all, I think it's a little high, like a little bit close to number one. But also, I love this character so much. And I went back and forth, and I was like, is Buster better? Is Joe better? No, this is the choice for this show.
Yeah.
Much like Moira from Schitt's Creek, she's so out of touch that it's comical, and she's kind of the mastermind between everything. And even through the Netflix seasons of Arrested Development, which were notoriously not great,
Hmm.
I still enjoyed her performance. Rest in peace, Jessica Walter. You've watched at least part of this, right?
Oh yeah.
You're on board with this one.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I left this one for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I I I love this show, and again, I'm happy it's here. And I think after some him hawing, I think she's the right choice. I'm not good till 12.
Well, that works because my next one's actually 15.
Okay.
That's Carrie Russell in The Americans.
Zori Bliss.
It is an amazing show. I didn't get the reference. I apologize.
Zori Bliss, the character from The Rise of Skywalker, played by Carrie Russell.
Oh, whoops.
Tisk tisk.
I don't care.
On a generally Star Wars podcast.
Well, that's what the sequel rewatches are for.
Very true. Anyway,
This show is absolutely amazing. She's amazing in it. The concept is about sleeper agents in America during the Cold War
that
and
sounds
how they have
very
to blend in.
interesting.
Yeah.
Why is this familiar? Did someone who like wrote this? The show.
Ooh, I don't know, but it is an absolutely amazing show. If you're into anything spy related, it is great. It's told from the perspective of the Russian sleeper agents. And in a weird way, you're almost rooting for them.
Whoa, that's kind of
Like,
cool.
have, it's almost Sopranos-esque in the sense where you get really attached to these characters, and then they'll just do something horrific, and you're like, and okay, that's brings me back down to earth.
That sounds like, and then we'll talk about it in a little bit, but Breaking Bad also has that kind of feel where it's like, I'm rooting for, oh, never mind.
Yeah, but she's really good in it. Matthew Rhys is also in it. They play a married couple. They were married when they were.
She's the sleeper agent.
They both are.
But yeah, like she is one of them.
She is. She is
Okay.
one of quote the Americans.
Okay, I got you. Cool.
It is really, really good.
It sounds like
Couldn't.
it's one of those ones that I like wouldn't immediately say, "Oh, I need to watch this," but I would really like it if I did.
There's a lot of violence to it.
That doesn't bug
I
me
mean,
too much.
I mean, it's not too bad. I mean, it was a show on FX, so it's not like
Mhm.
we're getting Game of Thrones decapitations, but there's a
Typically, shows like that, my wife has to say, like, you would like this. We're gonna watch it, and then I whine about it for about a season and a half, and then I'm in.
No, this show is very good,
Cool.
and it gets deeper and deeper, and then you get introduced to all these other characters on both sides,
Mhm.
and you're like, oh, I'm rooting for them and
Are you
them.
good? Are you happy with that character from that?
She's by far
Cool.
she is the character. Could not recommend it enough.
Sweet. Anyone else between there and 12?
No.
All right, that brings us to someone who I think could be closer to number one, and that is Michael Scott, played by Steve Carell in The Office. I I'm actually in the midst of The Office rewatch, and Michael, much like you were describing in The Americans, it's like he does like the most thoughtful thing, and then he does the most idiotic, foolish thing, and you're just left ping-ponging back and forth. All the while, you're cracking up at pretty much everything that he does. I think it's perfect casting. I think it's a shame that he had to leave the series 2 seasons before it ended. I think those seasons are still better than people give it credit for, but
Hmm.
I think he had such an important role in the show. He's so good. I really think he could have been higher up on this list. What do you think?
Yeah, just looking ahead to see who's above him. Absolutely.
And
But
even a character that I generally like, maybe more than Michael, I still think Michael should have been up higher. We'll get there. We'll get there. But I just think that he did such a great job with this and so funny.
yeah.
I this is one of the things where like the one character per show frustrates me because I think Dwight Schrute should like Rainn Wilson did such a good job as Dwight Schrute too, almost
Hmm.
equivalent. But because Michael was more of like the main character, where Dwight was kind of like sidekick.
The assistant to the main character.
Exactly. I think it sucks that Dwight Schrute isn't on this list, but I understand, and I wouldn't take Michael off.
That's fair.
Sweet. Next, I only have number 8 and number 5 left.
I have 8, 5, let's see, just making sure 8, 5, and 1.
All right. So number 8, we have Captain Raymond Holt, played by Andre Braugher from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Such a good character. Again, one where I feel like he might be a little closer to one than I would have expected him to be.
Hmm.
But when you watch the show, you fall in love with him. And like, I'm not going to certainly say he shouldn't. He doesn't deserve it. I was just surprised by that. But the way that he handles that team of such a diverse, set of personalities
Hmm.
really shows why he, with such a level head, deserves to be where he is.
Oh yeah. And then whenever he breaks, it makes it so much funnier.
And he breaks in lots of different directions.
Yeah.
And like his like the little like gleans into his personal life. Every single interaction with Cheddar the dog, so good.
Yeah.
Are you
His
surprised?
interaction
Go ahead, go ahead.
with Madeline Wunsch
Oh yes, it's so funny. Are you surprised by his positioning here?
in the grand scheme of things, yes. Um, Now granted, there's also this isn't taking into account shows that were left off that I don't think should have been left off.
Yes. That's why
But
I was like, let's keep it. I'm not going to say too much because at least they put someone from Brooklyn Nine-Nine on. And I think,
yeah,
again, he is the choice that I would pick from that show as well.
I agree.
All right. Who else did you have?
Uh, Honorable mention is The Wire. Michael Kenneth at 6. I'm currently watching it. I
That's
haven't
cool.
met his character yet, but I hear he's phenomenal.
And that
I'm
brings me to the last one I
Yeah,
wrote down, number 5. That'd be Walter White.
he's too low.
I think I agree with you. I just can't even believe that like I spent most of the show rooting for him and like thinking his wife was like the bad guy. And then
Yeah,
you really like and they do such a good job at that and he does such a good job at that. Especially as an actor who I knew prior to watching Breaking Bad as like a comedy actor. And then he like you realize as he does worse and worse stuff like this guy is the villain of this show. And I just that was such a mind-boggling thing to me.
yeah, I agree. I mean, like kind of like what we said with the Americans, like you're not supposed to be rooting for him, but you find yourself rooting for him.
Because he does have such a tragic story.
Yeah.
I agree with you though. I think he could be up higher. And it's unfair for me to say because I've not watched any of the shows between here and number one. But maybe you can give us your insight on number one and kind of tell us what you think.
Number one, I think deserves to be there. That's Julia Louis-Dreyfus as Selena Meyer in Veep.
Another one on my list.
It is so funny. It is a political show, political comedy, where she's playing Selena Meyer, the vice president. Oh, it is such a funny show at all times because it's mixed in with her personal life, the inner workings of Washington, and then her office dynamic.
Mhm.
It's just so good.
It,
I think
it
it's the,
Go ahead.
ah, she should be up very high. Now, I almost wish it was split into like serious and like comedy shows because I think it's unfair to compare them.
And they kind of mention that in the intro to this article, but it's like, you know, uh, they said it's like they approach this with a sense of seriousness, but also it's for fun. So I think at the end of the day,
Yeah.
Anything else before we talk about the glaring omissions?
No.
Do you want to go from like smallest to biggest omissions or biggest to smallest omissions?
What do you pick?
All right. Either we're going to start with the biggest ones. Either Leslie Knope or Ron Swanson should have been in the top 10 of this list.
Parks and Rec not even on it.
What the heck? Come on.
I don't understand that.
No, almost criminal.
Yeah, I mean, and you could have put any one of those people,
Andy Dwyer,
April, Tom.
Larry, Terry, Jerry,
Yeah.
Gary. At the end of the day, I was thinking about this, and I personally relate most to Leslie Knope, but I think Ron would have been my choice to go on there.
See, I would have gone Leslie or Tom.
Oh, Tom.
I think Tom was, I think he, Aziz Ansari was so funny.
Oh no, no.
Why?
Go
Why?
ahead.
Why not?
I
Because
think
he's
Tom,
terrible?
he makes terrible decisions. He's not nice to the people around him. I think I would have put if it wasn't Ron or Leslie. Again, I think I would have picked Ron. If it wasn't Ron or Leslie, I would have went with Andy Dwyer played by Chris Pratt.
Yeah, that's fair.
But we each have our own set of opinions, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, you want to take another crack? Do the next one?
Mine personally is technically it's outside of the rules. However, the show premiered in 1999 and took
Oh my
place,
God.
well, the majority of the show took place after the year 2000. But because it started in 99, it was omitted.
Of course you have to bring up your exception to the rule. Go ahead.
The Sopranos.
I mean, yeah. No,
Like,
it's glaring.
and again, they got around it by saying shows that premiered after 2000. But it's
I,
like,
they had to make the cutoff somewhere.
I know, but they
I'm not
missed
gonna
out on arguably the one of the widely accepted greatest shows ever.
I'm not gonna humor you too long on this one because it's outside of the rules. But
That-
you spoke your
That's
piece.
that's fair.
I want to say one, and this is I'm gonna say it, even though you're the reason I watched the show. I love Roy Kent, but Ted Lasso should have been in this, and Ted
Oh
Lasso
yeah.
should have at least been in the top 20.
Yes.
Like, there's no way that Captain Holt should have been above Ted Lasso, let alone Ted Lasso not even be on the list.
Well, it's weird because a lot of people who don't like Ted Lasso don't like it because of Ted.
That is true. 'Cause I could see him being grating to someone who I tend to have a more Ted personality. And when we were watching it, I said to my wife, "Is that how I make people feel?" And she was kind of like, "Uh-huh." So maybe it is. Maybe someone would not want to see Ted on there at all.
Some of my coworkers have explicitly said that they hate his overly happiness and
They
it
probably
ruins
wouldn't.
and it ruins the show for them.
They probably wouldn't like me very much.
No, I said they're just haters,
I think they might be.
but I'm
Who else you got?
trying to think other big snubs. I mean, Parks and Rec, any of those characters would be,
That was insane. That makes me so mad. Like
yeah.
actually mad that Parks and Rec didn't get a spot on there. Um, can I talk about some I'm gonna say two that are kind of related. I'm gonna say two that are kind of
Go
related.
ahead.
These are both USA detective comedy shows.
Oh, can I guess
Uh,
one?
of course.
Psych.
Psych, of course, and from Psych, I particularly am referring to Sean Spencer, the lead there.
Hmm.
And if they didn't want to do Psych because it was too similar to this other show, I would have also been okay with Adrian Monk. So Sean Spencer played by James Rede Rodriguez, or Adrian Monk played by Tony Shalhoub. They both have similar but different comedy
Hmm.
styles. The performances were so great, and I think especially like you could even give the edge to Adrian Monk because he's playing like an OCD detective. Like he was fine until his wife got killed. His wife's
Hmm.
played by Jan Levinson, and she's supposed to be like this pure like she like the flat like in his mind she wears like white all the time, and I'm like it's Jan. But I think like it triggered his OCD, so he has to like balance being this OCD guy while also being an incredibly successful detective. I was surprised that I'm not as mad about it as I am about Parks and Rec, but I'm surprised that one of those two isn't on the list.
I agree. And I have two as well.
Okay.
The first show that I'm surprised got snubbed completely is Suits,
Yeah. I didn't
especially
even
because
think about that.
it's had a big resurgence recently.
It's true.
I mean, you could have picked Gabriel Macht as Harley Specter or Patrick J. Adams as Mike Ross. Either would have fit.
I watched the first two
And
seasons of it, and you're right, those performances were so good.
yeah,
Even if it wasn't, top 50 even, I'm surprised that they weren't there.
yes,
Maybe it's just a gap in the. I mean, and with nine authors, you'd think that they someone would have seen it, but maybe it's just a gap in the
yeah.
people. Um,
And I have a controversial one that I don't want to end on. So if you don't mind, if I can do two in a row and you can end on.
I have three more. Let me do one, then I'll do two
Okay.
that are together. All right. Video game adaptations are always a little dicey. So when we have something as successful as The Last of Us was, one of my favorite video games. Is that
You
your
just
dicey
gave me,
one?
no, you just gave me another one. So now I
Um,
have two more.
I think there are many performances that were really good in there, but I love Pedro Pascal. I'm not talking about The Mandalorian today, but I was in total doubt that Pedro Pascal would be a good Joel when they first cast him. But I think that Joel Miller, played by Pedro Pascal in The Last of Us, should be on this list.
Yeah.
And it's such a he manages to like balance honoring the game and doing some of the performance that came with the game, but then also adding his own spin to it in such a really unique way that I hadn't seen in terms of a video game adaptation. Like the Uncharted movie, Tom Holland is basically just playing Tom Holland, and there's a few Nathan Drake things about it. But Pedro Pascal really like disappears into Joel Miller, which I thought was really exciting.
Yeah, I agree.
All right.
I'm gonna go with my controversial one and then
Okay.
end on a non-controversial one.
Okay.
I'm just gonna say it. Kevin Spacey in House of Cards was absolutely phenomenal.
I've heard good
And
things about that.
his off the screen issues are absolutely horrific.
Yeah.
And I'm not condoning Kevin Spacey. It's more of the performance as Frank Underwood, which was great.
I can see why you didn't want to end on that one.
I thought the show was really good. And I will say when he left the show kind of was not a fan of the fifth season.
Happens. Is that where it ended after he left?
Well, no, they did one more season
Oh, it was
after he
just like it
left.
was just one season.
Yeah, and it was not very great.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yes.
Do you have where would you have liked to seen him on this list?
Probably in the 70s.
Okay, cool. Especially given the controversy. Who knows where like that sucks because who knows where that would have gone
Yeah.
with additional seasons. You all good?
I have one more.
Do you want me to do mine or do you want to end? Are you happy with yours?
I have a good ending one.
All right, then I'm gonna do two together. They're related-ish. It seemed like they really didn't want to do more than one Star Wars or Marvel, but I'm going to say two Star Wars characters. One to replace the one they picked, and one that I think deserved a spot.
Oh.
I think Luthen's great, but I would pick Genevieve O'Reilly playing Mon Mothma in Andor. I thought that performance was so good. Dan knows I'm a Mothma fan.
Hmm.
Is that what you were going to say?
No, you keep adding characters, which is triggering something in my head.
I'm
So I'll
sorry.
give an honorable mention and then I'll actually discuss one.
Okay. Genevieve O'Reilly's Mount Mothma was fantastic. I won't say too much. I think she would have been appropriate around where Luthen was. And then one that I think could have been in the 90s, 80s, maybe a very recent one, but Jude Law as Jodh Nowod in Skeleton Crew. I thought his performance was absolutely fantastic and one of the strongest like acting performances in my opinion that we've seen in Star Wars in a good while. And I think he
Mhm.
deserves to be on the list. Anyway, I'll be
I agree.
done. We'll turn it over to you.
So my two honorable mentions are Michael C. Hall from Dexter should have been on there.
That is really surprising that he
And
wasn't.
yeah, I and again, I think this could be attributed to people just not
Hmm.
communicating. That,
And
and
they're
then
making
my
a
other
new,
honorable mention,
they're doing a revival, aren't they?
it's currently out,
Oh,
so it's
cool.
now a prequel. And then my other honorable mention is Alan Richardson as Thad Castle from Blue Mountain State.
That is not my favorite show, but I could see why he would definitely deserve to be on this list, just in terms of iconic character nature.
Yes. And then the show that I really think got snubbed is Chernobyl.
Yeah, you've talked about Chernobyl for a good while.
You can thank that for The Last of Us.
I could see how that spurred it off in your brain. Is it which character from Chernobyl? And then we can call it a day.
There's two. Probably Jared Harris as Valery Legazov, who is accompanied by Stellan Skarsgård.
Oh, wow. Well, you have to pick one.
Uh,
That's their rule.
probably Jared.
Okay.
Jared Harris was phenomenal, and it made you really feel disappointment.
Oh, God. Nothing makes you want to watch a show like that.
No, it's a very, very, very good show.
Awesome.
There's one episode that I would tell you to skip, or one portion of an episode I'd tell you to skip.
I
But
would
other
trust your
than that,
judgment.
no, you would.
All right. Overall, I thought this list though was really good. It was really fun. Clearly gave us a lot to talk about. Um, Justice for Pawnee, as always. But do you have anything
Yes.
else to add, Dan?
There's been so many shows since the year 2000 that if we're really narrowing it down to 100 shows, there's gonna be some that we're gonna be missed. But I
But
think
the
there was
ones that
this,
they missed some iconic ones, like big, big.
yeah. And it's
Believe.
yeah.
They don't believe
It's
in believe.
it's weird that they picked The Good Place over Parks and Rec.
I mean, I would have been mad if Parks and Rec was in above the top 20. But then I was like, well, Leslie will obviously be. And I kept scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. And then it wasn't there. And then I got really upset. And I sent it to my wife in a fit of rage. And then I think I toned it down a little bit when I sent it to Dan and pitched the
Yeah.
idea for this episode.
You
But
didn't tell me what the you said I noticed some snubs and left it at that.
okay, good. I let you figure it out yourself.
Yeah.
All right. You got anything else to add for this?
No. I think it
Sweet.
was there's a lot of good shows on this list
There
that
are. And a lot of great performances that deserve to be recognized.
and that we didn't even mention.
Absolutely. If there's something that we didn't mention that you wanted to or you love, please let us know why you love them in the same way that we kind of just bounced our thoughts on our favorite characters back and forth to one another. But anyway, we thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it. Please consider giving us a subscription, a review, comment, like on YouTube or the podcast platform of your choice. Consider giving us a follow on Twitter or X at Blue Shadow Pod or on Instagram at Blue Shadow Podcast. And with that, we thank you once again, and we will see you next time.
See you next time. Thank you.